Let's get to our 7. Shiva mine puraniot bo'in la'olam al shiva gufe avera. That there are 7 species. A min is a type, a category. Right? 7 categories of puraniot. Not nisayan. Remember we talked before, we used nisayan challenge. This is punishment. This is pure, you are going to suffer because you messed up. 7 categories of suffering enter the world on account of 7 primary averas. Mitzasan maisrin, mitzasan eno maisrin, ra'av shel betzoros ba. If some people give meiser, and some people don't give meiser, then a famine will come. But a famine that comes from lack of rain, of scarcity, of drought, where some people get rich and some people get poor. You end up with a civilization of significant economic disparity, where some people do very well and some people are scrambling for their very lives. If you look at a world and you see a society or a civilization, right, where there's drought, where there's economic distress, where there's recessions or depressions, and some people are doing well and some people are starving, you should know that it is the result of a civilization where some people have chosen to meiser and some people have chosen not to. So here's the idea. You have to recognize that the physical world has spiritual roots. That we think the physical world just happens physically. Rocks just keep turning into rocks, and plants keep reproducing new plants, and weather, Spiritual choices have physical consequences. The material bounty of the world is designed to help us in our quest to elevate the world. You're given wealth and you're given comfort in order to build the world into a holier place. And to the extent that we allow godlessness to rise, to the extent that we reject the necessity of acting in a spiritual and holy and wholesome and uplifting way, right, that we forget to morally consecrate the world, is the extent to which Hashem will cause the blessings of the harvest and the blessings, right, of physicality to fail us. The bounty of the world is meant to serve us spiritually. To the extent that we reject that spiritual obligation is the extent to which the physical will fail us. When you see that there is this collapse of civilization, it's because we as a people, right? So what's Meiser? So there's 3 kinds of Meiser. There's Meiser Rishon, right? Meiser Sheni, Meiser Oni. Meiser Rishon is we give 1/10 of our produce every year to the Levite, right? It's the idea that part of our physical wealth must be used to serve the spiritual, right? 1/10 of whatever I earn, God has entrusted to me. He gave it to me to give away. It's not mine. If I earn $1,000, 900 of it is mine. 100 of it is God's money that He's entrusted to me to use to serve the spiritual. And if I'm going to steal it from Him, right, and abuse it and use it to buy beer, so He's not going to let that beer show up, right? Meiser Sheni, in fact, his way is even deeper. Meiser Sheni is a second Meiser, right, that in years 1, 2, 4, and 5 of a Shemitah cycle, my job is to take that money and go to Yerushalayim and party in a holy fashion. Is to recognize that not just does God make a demand on the physical trappings of the world, but God demands that you sit down and enjoy it, right? Take pleasure in the world in a holy fashion, right? I won't even recognize God's demand that I serve Him through joy, right? It's a further, and the last is Meiser Ani. It's in year 3 and 6, we have to give 10% of that extra 10% to support the poor. Right? These 3 things together are a recognition that the physical bounty that we get comes with a moral and spiritual obligation. So if as a culture, as a Jewish people, we say we're just spotty, we don't care, then you create spottiness in wealth and poverty. He says, though, if everybody decides, right, Gamru Shalol Aser, if everyone says forget about it, we're not sharing. We don't recognize it. We don't think this. We're meat people. We're physical. It's my money. It's my job. It's my farm. I earned it. You have no claim. It says Ra'av shel mehuma v'shel betzoret ba. Starvation in Somalia. Starvation when we were younger in Ethiopia. What's the cause of rampant starvation in Somalia, in East Africa? It's brigands. It's bandits. Right? There's a drought, but the real cause is civil unrest. If you're a farmer, how long does it take to make a farm work? You got to put that stuff in the ground, and you got to hang out for 9 months till it grows. 6 months, 3 months, 4 months. How likely are you to do that when armed terrorists are running through, burning the stuff down, and stealing it, and robbing, and raping, and pillaging? So the ultimate famines, when you see the absolute destruction of a culture, right? It's because the whole world turns upside down. If people say that holiness has no demand on me, then you turn into a culture of Somalia, of brigands, right? Of banditry. And then you have a famine that's devastating. But here's the scariest one. And then it says, Shalo lital et hachala ra'av shel koloyaba. If people choose not to take challah, then a Holocaust will come. The Holocaust is caused by people not taking challah. So what's challah? So challah is taken from bread. So what's bread? So what's the difference between an apple and a loaf of bread? How do you get an apple? Walk over to a tree, you reach up, you grab an apple, right? Wipe it on your pants, take a bite, you're done. If your wife is looking, wash it off, right? But you want an apple, you just walk over, you reach up to the tree, you have an apple. How do you get bread? You got to grow the wheat, you got to harvest the wheat, you thresh it, separate the wheat, separate the chaff, and grind it, right? And separate the flour. Right? Then you got to take and mix the stuff with. My wife uses pineapple juice or whatever to create a sourdough starter and get it to rise to create some sort of starter and get it yeasted, and then it's got to rise, and then you got to bake it, right? Challah represents civilization. That's why we make hamotzi on bread. Right? Bread represents civilization, culture, right? An apple, right? Baboons eat apples. I guess maybe not, there aren't apples, but baboons eat bananas. Whatever, pick some fruit that grows in Africa. That's what baboons eat, right? They don't eat bread.
Cherry trees.
Cherry trees, whatever, but only man eats bread. Right? Bread represents civilization. Bread is the necessity to recognize that embedded in this thing is the potential for that thing. And it takes a whole civilization and culture to make bread. Mm-hmm. So that's why we make a motzi on bread. Bread is, we don't make a motzi on grapes. Bread is the representation of all humanity and all progress and all civilization and all culture. So now what's challah? Challah means I dedicate that bread to the Kohanim, to Kedusha, to holiness. I recognize that holiness has a right to take a bite out of my bread. That holiness, my wife is a big baker, right? So every week she bakes. She gives me a little piece of her challah wrapped up in foil, and it's my job to take it out and throw it on the barbecue and burn it to a crisp, right? To destroy it. Because there's no Kohen I can hand it to. I can't have a hana from it. It's not mine. It's not for me to take pleasure from. It's for me to serve spirituality. It says a civilization, the most cultured civilization in the world, if it does not recognize the right of God, the right of Kohanim, to make demands on it, to shape it, to order it, to take a piece of it. If you think that you have, it doesn't matter how much Brahms and Beethoven and architecture and music and whatever you have, if you don't recognize that God has the right to tell you what to do, and that He has the right to reach into your very bread and take a piece, right? That part of that life must be slaved to, secondary to holiness. And until you split it off, right? You could have 100 tons of bread, Until you split off that chunk of challah, you have no right to that bread. It's not yours. You can't touch it, right? If you don't recognize the right of holiness to make demands on physicality, then you have the potential to do anything. You have the potential for a Holocaust, right? That's what Avram saw in Avimelech, right? He says, "I saw God's not here. There's no fear of God here." Right? Civilization, culture is value neutral, right? You can use culture to serve any idea or any ideal. It's only when culture is subjugated to God, to holiness, right? It has the ability to propagate and to continue. So that's Mishnah 10.